Welcome to Brain Wellness, the podcast. I'm your host, Mandy NP. Each episode will bring you a new topic or interview related to brain health and wellness as part of my mission to help you on the path to a healthier, happier brain. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. My guest today is Atara Parkinson. Atara has been practicing in the field of mental health for almost 14 years. Her experiences include community mental health, parent-child interaction therapy, trauma-informed somatic therapy, anxiety, couples, and ADHD. Atara currently operates her own private practice and now focuses on helping individuals heal holistically as well as betrayal intensives for couples. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah. So we were having a little bit of fun before we hit record because that's what we do. But you kind of talked a little bit about my first question that I like to ask, but tell me a little bit about your story. What got you to where
Mhm.
you are now? How did you get here?
Yeah, beautiful. I love that question. And actually, the story is twofold. So, my first health crash was in 2014, and uh, I was going through grad school. I was working full time, 40 hours, and then I had a practicum on top of that, which was 20 hours. And this went on for about a year and a half. And I finished my graduate work, and then I was planning a wedding. We got married a few months into marriage. My body was like, no, we're done. You may not abuse. I should add to some of the lifestyle stuff was probably binge drinking on the weekends, training for half marathons, so over exercising, and then under eating, of course, as I prepared to get married, right? Every bride wants to look beautiful. So the combination of these things with the stress, my body was like, we're done. And I also didn't really understand how to nourish my body well at that point. And what this looked like was such fatigue and exhaustion that, Mandy, I would get up for my day, get ready, and within an hour and a half of 2 hours, have to get back in bed because that's how exhausted I was. And I went to my doctor, my allopathic medicine doctor, and went, "Hey, what's going on? This is not okay. I've always been a high energy individual." And he's like, "Okay, we'll run labs." We ran labs. I come back all excited, right? And he goes, "Oh, there's nothing wrong." And I went, no, excuse me. There's definitely something wrong. This is what's happening." He kind of almost shrugged and went, "Well, I don't maybe eat more broccoli." And I was like, whoa, whoa. And that's really started my journey of, okay, what is happening here? What is going on? I met a wonderful doctor that had been with Kaiser for 30 years, but had transitioned out because she's like, we are not enabling people to heal. And she really set me on this journey of discovering that essentially what was happening was my neurotransmitters that were fight and flight were through the roof, and my calming ones were zilch, non-existent. We did a sleep tracking, and I was waking up 17 times a night. So yeah, talk about exhaustion. You would understand why I felt so exhausted. And that started my journey, and I really was able to recover a lot of my health. Fast forward a few years later, I had baby number one. 18 months later, baby number two. 18 months later, baby number three. And I think when he was about 6 months old, COVID hit. Or no, he was a little bit older, about a year COVID hit. So stress on stress on stress. On top of that, what I know now is that pregnancy utilizes 10% of your mineral stores each pregnancy. And that's not including breastfeeding. And I breastfed all my babies, which probably utilized more. So something that I was already deficient in, and these pregnancies just drove this deficiency even further. This really manifested in what I now know is postpartum anxiety and postpartum rage. And rage is actually a signal of anxiety oftentimes because the feeling was I'm not able to control my world around me, and that's anxiety. And because I wasn't able to control it, I would just lose it on everyone and anyone around me, my poor babies, my husband. And this had never been me. I had never been angry. I had never been a yeller or stressed out. So it was really alarming. And then I was exposed to the concept of minerals. And wow, this was such a game changer and completely changed my life. I started getting what we call the crucial four in: magnesium, potassium, sodium, calcium. The rage went away. The that like, I can't control this. I can't get this situation the way that I want it went away. And I was able to easily move through life again. And it was such a blessing. So that's a little bit of my story and how I got here.
Yeah, yeah. I always love hearing the backstory because that it gives us so much insight into why you do what you do and how you
Exactly.
became so passionate about it.
Yes.
And actually, I was just talking with the doctor that I do the radio show with about this yesterday
Mhm.
too. So
Mhm.
that why just kind of gets you where you are. And
Yes. Gives us
I love
understanding too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of looking at something as simple as minerals
Mhm.
because it's as we were talking before we hit record too,
Mhm.
as a practitioner, I was always talking with my patients about let's look at vitamins. What kind of things can we get in, including the magnesium that you mentioned? That's a
Mhm.
huge one for headaches, especially. So we
Mhm.
would look
Yep.
at those because I'm personally very sensitive to medication side effects, and I've had lots
Mhm.
of patients that were too. So looking at
Yes.
things that are naturally supposed to be in our bodies anyway. They don't have side effects. I love that.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm on board too. And, I often say, well, let's try something that
Hmm.
could have a big impact potentially before we're trying something that is driving the dysfunction further.
Yeah.
First of all, a lot of psychotropic meds also deplete your minerals. So if you're already depleted and then you're taking a medication that depletes it more, oof, right? Then we get ourselves into real trouble. But also there's other side effects, right? You might have gastrointestinal difficulties on a medication. It might impact your sleep, right? I hear this all day long with clients. And so that's when I really recommend, hey, like you're saying, we have a headache, or in my world, we have anxiety. Hey, carry this little magnesium with you throughout your day. Do a little microdose under your tongue, right? And watch what happens. See what happens. And it's not always that simple. There's some intricacies there, but it is beautiful that it can be really straightforward. It can be really simple. It doesn't have to be this big, complex, overwhelming solution.
So let's get kind of down to some of the nitty gritty stuff. Why are some of these minerals so important for brain health?
I love it. And I'm going to give you a little story that I think will be so relatable for everybody. You're starting your day, you wake up late, rushing out the door, right? You're trying to grab everything you need, going through your checklist quickly, trying to look, making sure you're presentable because maybe you have a meeting that day, thinking about what you need later. If you have kids, you're like yelling at them to get their shoes on, brush their teeth. This is a stress state. Okay. And what happens in this state is your body is using up. We're gonna mention magnesium again first, because that's my homegirl. I love magnesium. And magnesium supports neurotransmitter synthesis, right? So it helps our neurotransmitters fire, helps them communicate the message, neuromuscular connection. So the me waving my hand through the air or able to, use my mouth and get the words out, that's impacted. That function requires magnesium in the body. So magnesium supports all of these processes. And as I said earlier, magnesium is a calmer, it has a calming effect on our brain because all those processes are able to happen with ease when we have magnesium. Potassium, it helps us think clearly, helps us use our memory and not get lost in the chaos that is swirling around us. It helps us kind of stay focused on the task. Calcium, it is great for if you're feeling extra irritability or stress. You're going to think about those 15 minutes that happened that morning for the rest of the day without calcium. In therapy land, we call this rumination, right? That cycle is a sign or symptom that, hey, we need better calcium in our diet. You are also more likely to be anxious at night and at the end of the day about that same situation happening again without the protective action of calcium. And then lastly, sodium helps keep our nervous system regulated. So we're not sitting in the corner crying because we're late. right? Our body goes, okay, we can do this. Like it's going to be okay. That requires balanced sodium in our bodies.
So what about if we go to the doctor, we ask to get all of our minerals checked and they check all these levels and they're normal.
Hmm.
Are they
So
actually normal?
yeah, that's a great question. What I have found with allopathic medicine, so this is someone likely that's covered by insurance, a typical Western American doctor, is what labs they're going to run are typically blood. Okay. And what happens there is blood is the last place that we're going to see dysfunction. Why is that? Because blood is our life force. If our blood is not in balance, then we die essentially. So that is the very very last place that we're going to see. The body is everything to keep our blood in the right place, right? So where our better places to look is a lot of people in this world would recommend what's called an HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis. And this takes a little piece of hair close to the scalp and you just cut a chunk off and send it in. And then that will send you the results back. And what this is amazing too is blood work is a single shot in time, where and hair tissue mineral analysis is a 3 month period that we're looking at of what is happening in the body over this period of time, not just hey, did I eat steak today? So my iron happens to be high, right? Versus if I didn't, it might appear lower. And so it can be a really beautiful example of what's happening. In my practice, I actually really work very intuitively, meaning I work off symptoms. And what I found is that really almost any symptom, and now it can get a little nuanced, but almost all symptoms, if we're getting these foreign balance, it's a guarantee we're going to see improvement.
Hmm. I love that. That's one of the things that we were always taught in nursing school, nurse practitioner, was to
Mm,
treat the patient and not the monitor, for example. So treat the
exactly.
patient and not necessarily the labs. The one
Hmm.
thing that when I in practice, I was always testing different types of magnesium. So there was a
Mm,
magnesium RBC that looked more at the actual stores that looked at that the 3 months. So that
yes.
was similar to that hair analysis.
Ooh,
And it gave us a much better answer. So somebody could have a normal, regular whole blood
mhm.
magnesium level, but their magnesium RBC was so different, and that's what we would treat. So I was
Love that you
always
mentioned
finding
that.
that level. Yeah, yep.
Mhm.
And is there a risk with some of these minerals of getting too much? Like some of the fat soluble vitamins, you can do too much if you're not monitoring it really closely. So if you're going by symptoms and not labs, is there that risk?
Yes. So here's what we do is most of what I recommend for my clients is food based. And why we do food based is because we basically are mitigating that risk. We're
Yeah.
taking that risk out. The only one that I have found so far that I think people do need in copious amounts is the magnesium.
Yeah.
And magnesium is great because we it essentially can't overdose on magnesium. The body will flush it. How you know you've taken too much magnesium? You have a bowel movement. And your
Yep.
body's like, no, thank you. We don't need it. So that's something to look for, right? If immediately after taking maybe a magnesium, your body's like, whoa, you have diarrhea? Okay, well, back off a little bit. The other ones, however, potassium, calcium is not something I ever recommend to clients to take in a supplement form. These are things we're getting from our food sources. Calcium we would get from some good salmon. We could get in, I prefer raw dairy, but you could do dairy, kefir, yogurt, Parmesan cheese, or other good cheeses are full. Potassium, we're going to get, oh, I love coconut water. And so coconut water, I always know, hey, my body needs more potassium when I'm really craving coconut water. Sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, also really high in potassium. And what's beautiful is, Mandy, we've noticed if we look at our culture, we naturally pair some of these things together that our body wants. So, for example, what do we put on potatoes? A heap of calcium, right? A bunch of butter and a bunch of sour cream on top of there. That's something that our body intuitively knows. Ooh, I like that. I want that because we're getting big hits. And then salt, right? We put some salt on there too. Okay, three. They have three of those crucial four all in one little serving of food. I'm trying to go back. So potassium, sodium. typically we don't have problems with sodium in our culture. We get enough salt. What I'll say is aim for maybe a high quality salt. So as you're getting that sodium, you're also getting some fixes of those other minerals. I really love Baja Gold. A practitioner online turned me onto that one. Redmond's is a really popular one. It comes from the Utah lakes here, Salt Lakes. What's another one? Oh, Celtic sea salt is another one that people really love that has an abundance of minerals. The other one, I love this topic because it's blew my mind, is spring water and mineral water are other places where we're getting twofold. We're getting hydration and we're getting extra minerals into our body. I am astonished and amazed by how many people are severely dehydrated. And I'm not talking about going and chugging, just a gallon of water a day, but I'm talking about mineral hydration because some of what happens is these minerals are outside the cell and they need to be driven into the cell to be utilized by the body. And getting, again, these minerals in balance helps that process.
Yeah, yeah. To offset that, I usually do at least one of my bottles of water in a day has electrolyte mix in it because
Beautiful.
for that same thing. I'm a
Yes.
headache person, so I try to do
Oh,
whatever I can to reduce mine too. So, and
yes.
I've always practiced what I preach. So when I talk about needing
Mhm.
all these vitamins and minerals, I do the same thing. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So you kind of mentioned some of those big ones, the sodium, potassium, magnesium. Are those kind of the most common ones that you see?
Those are the biggest, I'll say, like the most important. And when I start working with clients, we'll focus on those ones first and make sure those are getting in a line. Then we have some, other key players that, so we go back to magnesium. One of the brands that I love, they're called Smidge. They're a small batch company. They pair, for example, I think they have three types of magnesium in their morning mag. And so it's really energizing. It's why I have this really high energy that you're seeing today, is thanks to Morning Mag and oysters, but we'll get there in a second. But what they pair their magnesium with is boron.
Mm.
And why they pair it with boron is it because it helps the body absorb the magnesium. So we have these other minor players that are important, but certainly if you're starting out, focus on getting in those big four. I'll switch real quick to oysters. What's in oysters that's so key? Everybody knows zinc, right? We all know zinc. When we're sick, you need more zinc. Blah blah blah. Zinc, zinc, zinc. However, what is also important and also available in copious amounts in oysters is copper. And copper is also essential for helping utilize some of these minerals, as well as other things like vitamin or hormone D, as people would refer to it. So, again, there are these intricacies. So, if you're interested or if you're struggling with something particular, absolutely reach out to someone who's knowledgeable to get support on these things. But also, there's the beauty of you can just do some simple lifestyle changes to incorporate just nutrient dense food into your day to get some of these things better balanced.
Very cool. Very cool. And you mentioned a couple of the things that you might see, but what are some of the big symptoms that people would have that might tell them that they really need to consider some of these things?
Yeah. Okay. And why I love minerals as well, Mandy, and why I'm obsessed is because minerals don't impact one system, right? Maybe we take something and we hear, oh, vitamin C is a great example. Vitamin C, it's great for your immune system. All right, cool. But minerals impact our entire body, meaning every single system, minerals are required and necessary for the processes in that system to operate efficiently. And that's why I think minerals had such a big impact on my life. And I see it every day. So, really, I mean, there's a really broad range then. I obviously, because of my population and being in mental health, the mental health symptoms, right? So maybe we're having anxiety, maybe we're having depressive, low energy, fatigue. I love that you mentioned headaches. Headaches, I specifically for me, I've struggled in the past with migraines. and getting my mineral balance, boom, my migraines are gone. So now when I get them occasionally, I'm like, give me my coconut water. And I put it with coconut water. Online, you'll see a really popular adrenal cocktails. And so that's where your really nourishing minerals are important for your adrenals and your thyroid, and you're really nourishing those. So coconut water, a squeeze of lime, and a little bit of that good quality salt in the bottom. Oh my gosh, my body just craves it. Maybe it's PMS, hormonal symptoms that you're seeing. Maybe it's a sluggish thyroid. Minerals will help with that. Since I started minerals and specifically the oysters, PMS symptoms, zilch, non-existent. I used to get debilitating cramps before my period, and now nothing. It's almost annoying because I don't even know it's coming sometimes because they're so non-symptomatic. Muscle issues, right? Muscle cramping, restless leg syndrome. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are some basics of like what we would see and what minerals can help with.
That is so cool. Um, and I sound like a big nerd when I say that, but it's fascinating to see how all these things interact in the body and
Yeah,
how simple it can be to try to fix some of these things. And not everything's going to be that simple,
right.
but it's definitely worth a try because
Yeah.
what's it going to hurt, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's not going to. And I love what you're saying. I have a client right now. We just started working together a week ago, and he said something along the lines of, how long is this going to take?
Yeah.
And I told him, guess what? You're going to see change within a few weeks, like that quickly. And it is a testament to our mineral stores, how quickly those can change. But also it's encouraging, and I think it really gives people hope. I had another client, an older woman, perimenopause, and she was like, whoa, you just gave me so much hope. Yeah, I was like, yes, because she was like, everyone I've gone to about my energy, about this or that, you know, they've been like, right, we don't know what to tell you. And I was like, absolutely not. Like that is being subpar or not having optimal energy or mental health in life. I have learned you don't have to just live with that.
Mhm.
We can change it and we can make an impact on that. So going back to my client, he was like, we're gonna see change in a couple weeks. And then I prefaced that by saying, listen, your body has been in survival mode or been in dysfunction for a long time. So getting back to the place where you remember, and that's how I talk, because I remember thinking that way when I was really struggling with the anxiety and rage. I was like, when am I going to be myself again? When am
Mhm.
I going to feel like that old Atara that had energy and optimism in life? And that might take a minute, right? Because the body has been struggling for so long. But it is encouraging, I think, for most clients to see results pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the prescription medications that we give, we tell people 4 to 6 weeks before you really start noticing anything. So that can be a
Yes.
long time to wait to know if
Mhm.
something's going to work or not. So
Yeah.
it is really neat that you can give
Mhm.
somebody vitamins and minerals and you will see something pretty quickly because your
Yes.
body's like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. That's it. I feel that's I love that because that's exactly how I felt. And I think a lot of clients within, 2 sessions will come back with that attitude of like a relief, like
Hmm.
such a breath of relief, like, oh, thank God.
Hmm.
I am starting to feel better and I'm starting to see shifts almost
Hmm.
immediately.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you ever have anybody that then doesn't have a good absorption with their gut because their gut is kind of messed up
Oh,
still and
that's a
maybe
good
getting
point.
it by food just isn't enough and they might need the supplements in addition.
Absolutely. Yep. Great point. And that's one of the first things I also focus on with almost everybody is gut health,
Yeah,
right? And how do we get our gut health back online so that we can absorb these minerals?
yeah.
And I do this twofold. One is pretty standard gut health things, probiotics, getting your sauerkraut in, right? Your probiotic, prebiotic foods, collagen
Mm.
is another one, collagen and gelatin. Simple, Mandy, a simple fix, a scoop of collagen in your coffee in the morning, boom, right? And maybe if you're having a hot beverage later, it can go in smoothies, right? I put it in soups, I put it in baking, I add it
Yeah.
to everything. Collagen is covered in this household, but it's a simple addition to your food. We can get this through a food source if budget is tight by making bone broth, right? That's full of that good nutrients, or we can buy it from the store. And I want to say, just be careful and aware of where your collagen is sourcing from, because collagen is essentially the joints and ligaments of the animals. Where do animals store their toxins? Oh, their joints and ligaments. So if we're having an animal that is not well cared for or well fed, then we're ingesting those toxins. So some brands that I really like, Perfect Supplements is a wonderful brand. Code Age is a great brand. Third party tested, quality grass fed animals there. So that's one way that we really work on gut health. And then the second thing I'll say is a product called Biofulvic. Biofulvic is amazing. And I found this out. Her name's Nutrition Elements on Instagram, Kaylee Mason. She's a wealth of knowledge. And she turned me on to Biofulvic. Biofulvic, and I have several clients call it dinosaur water. And it's fulvic minerals in a liquid form, very easy to get in, doesn't taste bad. All of my kids take it and they actually beg for more. They're like, again, there's something intuitively in their body that knows that's good stuff and I want it. And Biofulvic does a number of things, but one of the main things is it helps us get those minerals again into our cells. It helps us absorb the cells. It's also an electrolyte source, and does, it works on hydration. It helps like digestion. It does just a number of things. Funny little story. When I started taking Biofulvic, I wanted to chug the bottle. Please don't do that. You should not chug the bottle. But my body was like, whoa, like we need that. We want that. And another interesting fact is I had a client struggling with alcoholism, and he started taking Biofulvic and no longer had alcohol cravings. Yes. So we can see a connection there between a lot of substance abuse, or what we call mental health pica, which is eating non-food sources, that those are signs of deficiency, that something in the body is not getting what it needs. So it starts trying to reach for other things to get that need met. And when we start to correct those deficiencies, boom, we see that intensity around that drive or addiction really starts to come down. And I'll give another example. My personal battle was with sugar, and I was a sugaraholic. When I got my minerals on board, my sugar demons went away. Now, do I still eat sugar? Yes, I do. Right? I still eat a cookie, or a bite of ice cream now and again, but it didn't have that I have to have this feeling attached to it anymore, and I could say no to sugar if I needed to.
Mm. And that's the important part, is that having that control. Because when you're not in balance, you don't have the control, and the
Nope.
food controls you then.
Yes.
And then we see so many other problems.
Exactly. And shame and guilt,
Yeah.
right? Oh my gosh, I'm not in control of this. This is controlling me. I'm shameful about my eating. I'm shameful about my substance use, my alcohol, whatever. And then we're just feeding into the cycle. And what I love about minerals is I don't just come from a mind approach or a body approach, but we're hitting, and I'll even say three because the spirit or soul's connected in here too, but we're hitting the mind, right? The feeling of I'm not capable of this. Minerals help with that. And we're hitting the body addiction, right? Or drive for that food or substance. So we're hitting all of those levels simultaneously with minerals.
Hmm. Hmm. And it hits the part that I love, the gut brain connection, because
Yes.
whether it's mental health or just neurological health, I always said when I was working in neurology, there's a fine line between neurology and mental health.
Yep.
And I jump that line every day taking care of patients. So working on the gut health, getting all those minerals in, helps your brain, helps
Mm-hmm.
your body, everything. I love it.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
I think
Totally
we could
agree.
probably go on and on all day
We
long,
could.
but
I'm so
for
passionate about it.
I love when I get like-minded people, and I've had so many
Mm-hmm.
great interviews on the show, but I love getting these when somebody is so like-minded and we can just kind of talk forever. So, but on that thought, do you have any upcoming events or anything that you wanted to share with our listeners?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I have a couple other upcoming podcasts. I have, because I'm in mental health, my other subset is I do family. You said the word intensives, and you're like, wait, what? Am I reading that right? Yes. Intensives are basically, I think when people sign up for therapy, they think like I have to go on a weekly basis for years on end. Well, no, actually, like let's do an intensive. An intensive is an extended period of time, maybe 2, 3 days or 2 weekends, whatever is needed, and we knock out a chunk of what is needed right then. Maybe it's a crisis, maybe it's something you're struggling with. And we would do like 3 hour session, 3 hour session, and really get just down and dirty, right? Get into the good stuff. And that's what a therapeutic intensive is. I also, well, next week, wow, that's coming fast. Next week, have a parenting workshop that I'm doing with a group. It's called Super Family. I want to just point people as well to my Instagram, because I think some people run up with in alternative medicine of like, well, my insurance doesn't cover this and I can't afford it. So there's a whole world out there on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube of people that are passionate about this topic, and they give so much free information out there for minerals and how to just incorporate and start on some simple steps. So my Instagram is at Atara, ATARA dot Parkinson. You can find me there. I also have a Facebook page, and I post just some tidbits, right? Or how to incorporate this or that into your life to start those steps of making improvements.
Awesome. Awesome. And that was going to be my next question. And where can people find you? But I will include all of those in the show notes as well,
Love it.
so people can find you easily. Any last things that you want to share with the listeners before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I want to say you're not stuck. Meaning, what I say with clients all the time is there's always possibility. And I think sometimes we have these blinders on, like, well, this is just the way it is, or this is just the way my life has to be. And I'm here to tell you and remind you, absolutely not. Is that just, I call it looking up at the horizon, right? Just lift your head up, take a look around, maybe pray if that's what you're into, right? And say, God, just help me, help connect me to what I need and give me a miracle, right? And sometimes that miracle is connecting with the right person or the right thing that you need. And so that's what I just want to remind people today is there's always possibility. And whatever you're struggling with, there is a solution out there for a better life, that, I think the universe and God wants us to succeed and have a good life. And I'm all about bringing that for people.
Awesome. Great words to end on. Thanks so much for being here, Tara.
Thank you so much, Mandy.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this with others to help me continue on with my mission to help people live healthier, happier lives. Go to www.brainwellnesssolutions.com to see what I'm up to and get links to all the social medias there. See you next time.